Many know famous racing father-son combinations like the Earnhardts, Petties, Jarretts, and even the Bakers, but few know of the father-son duo of David and Larry Pearson. David, of course, is the legendary Silver Fox, who for the better part of 20 years was Richard Petty's #1 rival in the NASCAR Cup Series. Today he is known by many as one of, if not the greatest driver to ever grace NASCAR. But his son Larry has seemed to have been much more easily forgotten to the greater racing public. Born November 2nd, 1953 to David and Helen Pearson, Larry would be the first child for the couple, as he grew up in the shadows of his father's career. He had just started racing in big league stock cars, and he would bring his family to a multitude of tracks across the South. During this time, Larry would make good friends with Ned Jarrett's son and future NASCAR champion Dale Jarrett, and Wendell Scott's son, Michael Scott. As Larry worked through high school, he quickly realized the career path he wanted to pursue: be a race car driver. He would get his first shot in a race car in 1974, where he ran somewhat poorly in a practice session. Eventually, Larry would get a shot in race conditions at North Wilkesboro, where he ran second for a majority of the event until he blew a tire. The run assured Pearson that he could be a driver, and running through 1975, he would win his first stock car event at Rockingham. The team Larry drove for was entirely a family effort, crew chiefed by his brother Ricky, and pieced together mainly through volunteers. Over the next 6 years, Larry would run the NASCAR Baby Grand Division, or better known as the Goodies Dash Series. He would also get an incredible opportunity in 1976 to drive with his father in the Daytona 24. They would team up with Jim and Gary Bosher, and they would win the GI class, beating a team that was fielded by James Hilton and Richard Childress. Over the next 6 years, Pearson would run on the Baby Grand circuit, collecting modest success. It would include a total of 6 wins, 4 of them coming at Rockingham. Larry was exceptional at the North Carolina track, and in 1982, they began to run in the modern era Busch Grand National Series. They would be driving a Chattanooga Chew 21 car, and Larry would finish 14th in his first ever race at Charlotte, after qualifying 3rd. They would then attempt Bristol and Charlotte again, finishing 8th in both events. For 1983, they ran 8 events, including his first start at Daytona, where he got 9th. He would attempt his best track, Rockingham, qualifying 3rd, but would wreck on lap 37. After finishing 31st, he would grab a 10th place at South Boston, 2 8th places at Hickory and Greenville Pickens, and grab his first top 5 at North Wilkesboro. His last start of the year came at Charlotte, where he won the pole but had a mechanical failure after 47 laps, finishing 37th. In 1984, Pearson would run over half the schedule, collecting 11 top 10 finishes, and continuing to improve his family team. They headed to Hickory in October of 1984 for the run of the Bobby Isaac Memorial. Bobby Isaac was a very close friend to David Pearson, on and off the track during their driving careers, and when Isaac passed, Pearson lost more than just a close friend. Larry was determined to run well in this event, and to win for his father. All day he would battle Jack Ingram, Tommy Houston, and Dale Jarrett, eventually coming out on top and beating them all to get his first win in the NASCAR Busch Series. The win propelled the team to commit to a full 1985 Busch Series schedule. The year started off somewhat rough with a couple of mediocre finishes at Daytona and Rockingham, but things started to get straight with 6 top 10s over the next 9 races. Coming back to Hickory, Pearson would beat Brett Bodine en route to his second career Busch win at the track. The following race at Orange County, he would win again, beating Jack Ingram. The back-to-back wins started off a run to the end of the year where Larry would have 10 top 5 finishes across 14 races, and a worst finish of 18th during this time. Despite all the great runs, he would still slot 3rd in standings, behind Jimmy Hensley and eventual champion Jack Ingram. Starting in 1986, Larry would win the pole at Daytona and lead the first lap before getting past Mike Alexander. He would then lose an engine and finish 41st. He would also run his first ever Daytona 500 in 1986, driving for his father in the 21 car. This is one of the few times in NASCAR history the 21 was run in the Daytona 500 not owned by the Wood brothers. Larry would start 23rd, also blowing an engine in the race en route to a 40th place finish. The next race at Rockingham for Larry in the Busch Series was another sub-30th place finish. It sunk him to 35th in standings, and with a steep hill to climb, he would begin that mount over the next 15 races, getting back on track and not finishing worse than 12th over that span. He would grab 4 runner-up finishes, and a total of 8 top 5s and 13 top 10s. Larry would snap the streak with an 18th place finish at Oxford Plains, but grabbed 3 more top 10s by the race at Rougemont. With 10 races left in the season, Larry was 379 points back from Jack Ingram, needing all but a miracle to even have a chance to win the title and stop Ingram from winning his 3rd since 1982. The first of those final 10 races came at Orange County Speedway, Ingram finishing 19th, while Pearson got 12th. The gap shrunk to 358. The next week at Bristol, Larry got a miserable 18th place finish and fell to 3rd in standings due to Brett Bodine winning. Ingram, though, finished 25th, and the gap was 337. The next race at Darlington stayed stagnant, but after Richmond, it was down to 319 with 6 races left. A 5th place at Dover got the total to under 300, to 282, for the first time since the summer. And shortly after the Dover race, Ingram would have trouble. Jack Ingram would have a scuffle with Bob Presley at the Asheville racetrack. Ingram would ram another vehicle, sending a third-party driver to the hospital, and he would also get in an all-out brawl, leading to his arrest. He would subsequently get suspended from the next 2 Busch races, and while disappointed that Ingram would miss the events, Pearson jumped on the opportunity. He got 2nd at Martinsville, and then he won at Orange County Speedway. Ingram was now completely out of the picture, and the championship battle would be between he and Brett Bodine. Going to Charlotte, he would start his 2nd ever Cup race and finish 12th. He would grab 3rd in the Busch race and also the points lead with 2 races to go. A 4th at Rockingham gave him a 17-point lead, and going into the final event in Martinsville, he stayed as close to Brett Bodine as he could all day, Brett eventually winning the race, while Pearson got 2nd. The points gap, 7. Larry was a NASCAR champion. He completed one of the largest championship comebacks ever in the history of the infamous Winston points format, and the tremendous turnaround carried momentum through the 1987 season. His 6 wins in the season came at Earp, Jefferson, South Boston, and then had a hat trick of 3 in a row at Rougemont, Bristol, and Jefferson again. Instead of a 7-point margin of victory, Pearson won the title by nearly 400, proving he was ready for Cup. Larry had run 4 more Cup races in 1987, grabbing a 6th place at Charlotte, and for 1988, they put their full attention on preparing for a full 1989 slate of Cup Series racing. They still won 3 races in the Busch Series that year and would finish a distant 3rd behind champion Tommy Ellis, but 1989 was their main focus. They were going to drive the 16 car. In their first race at Daytona in February, they finished 14th in 500. They would lose an engine at Rockingham and finish 22nd at Atlanta, but things looked good after 6th place at Richmond. However, they would have 8 consecutive finishes outside the top 15, sinking them to 22nd in points. Larry would get a 9th at Pocono, but the poor runs continued. They would make every race across the season and finish 23rd in standings for 1989, only beating Dale Jarrett in standings among those who made every event. Over the offseason, the team would experience a major blow. Longtime sponsor Chattanooga Chew would leave to go attempt to be with another team, and thus the 16 machine had no sponsor for 1990. At the 500, they picked up Publix, then ran some sponsorless races across the next 2 races. At Atlanta, they would blow an engine and have no sponsorship afterwards, and with that, David was done helping run the team. The family-run organization had officially folded, and Larry needed to find a new ride. He ran some races at the end of 1991 for Larry Heudrich, and in 1992 made no starts in NASCAR. He returned in 1993 to the Busch Series and ran a partial schedule for team owner Mac Martin, who grabbed 3 second-place finishes. In 1994, they ran nearly the full schedule, getting 8th in standings with 2 more runner-up finishes. In 1995, at age 41, Larry would come to Darlington, a track his father had dominated. He always wanted to win at the track, but never had an opportunity. However, leading late in the 1995 race there, he had to hold off the likes of Johnny Benson, Mark Martin, and Chad Little to win. 4 laps away from finally winning at a track his father was iconic at.
And the white flag. 1 more lap, just 1 more. The mark is back 3 or 4 car lengths from the 74 car best. He's going to try to get a run, but I think he's too far back there to get a run. I think he is too, Benny. If Pearson just rolls his groove through turns 3 and 4 like he's been doing, I don't think anybody can pass him.
Final lap for 41-year-old Larry Pearson, second-generation driver, and will a Pearson go to victory lane once again here at Darlington, you guys?
Yes.
When Larry pulled into victory lane, the crew celebrated, and his father was nowhere to be seen. He had stood just outside the track and watched his son from the Turn 4 tunnel win the event. He then left and went home. While Larry was disappointed to not have his father there, he understood why. In David's mind, it was Larry who had won the race, not him. It was his moment now. Outside of a win at Myrtle Beach, Larry would skate to a 6th place points finish in 1995. He'd only run one more full-time Busch season before a few part-time seasons up till 1999. He would make his last start at South Boston, and then retire from racing and become a driving school teacher. The school he helped run helped teach teenagers how to drive and get their license all the way up till 2021. And the only racing note he did outside of that was in 2010, when he ran the infamous NASCAR Legends race. In that event, he was severely injured in a crash with Charlie Glotzenbach, and through a very arduous process, he would make a recovery. But he would never race in a major stock car event again. Larry, to many, is forgotten across modern NASCAR. But he is a multi-time champion in a top touring division, and was a staple to NASCAR's current-day O'Reilly Auto Parts series when it was getting its footing in the 1980s. David, by many, is considered the greatest driver in NASCAR history. For Larry, some might consider him one of the most underrated in NASCAR history.